if there was conspiracy, corruption, collusion, any kind of corrupt contact, payola, anything between Trump and the Russian government or individuals of Russian descent, it would have been in the Mueller report. The Mueller report was not so limited that if the definition of the word was different from collusion to conspiracy, he had to say, oh, fuck that shit, we can't go there. We're only investing collusion. Now, I did find conspiracy, but we're looking for collusion, and so I couldn't find it.
He wasn't looking for collusion.
Okay, but this is what I'm saying. The purview was broad enough that if it had been collusion instead of conspiracy or corruption instead of collusion, he still would have brought indictment. It's not that narrow.
That's
and if it had been wait, I'm not done. And even if it had been not a Russian government official, but a Russian oligarch who was close to Russian officials, that still would have brought an indictment. That would have qualified.
If they had found the evidence.
Which they did not.
But they also said they were limited in what they could find.
Because they couldn't find anything.
No, and like I said,
they weren't limited. It was broad. It was broad enough. If they had found, so by your definition of their purview, I know this is boring, but you got to listen to me. By your definition of their purview, if they had found a guy named Ivan Suvorov, and he wasn't actually in the government, and he didn't actually conspire, but he did collude, and Ivan Suvorov colluded with Trump, you're saying Mueller would have found that out and said, wait just a cotton-picking minute. That's beyond the purview of our investigation. We can only go after conspiracy with actual Russian official official government people. So you're saying he might very well have found that Ivan Suvorov did collude with Trump, but that was beyond Mueller's purview. So Mueller said, well, I can't touch that.
I'm not
Is
really
that what you
saying
think?
that.
So you're saying that Mueller had the whole resources of the FBI, $35 million, 17 investigators, and he couldn't find a single Ivan Suvorov. Or they did find Ivan Suvorov, but they left it out. Oh, we can't do with that. That's collusion, not conspiracy. You think that?
Not really.
What do you think?
I'm thinking that there was plenty of stuff.
Stuff.
All right, so, all right. The Trump is, and I've said this, I said it last week, I said it.
Why don't you say something new this time? Because you're not winning.
No. The deal is, Trump is easy to butter up.
Prove it.
Take him to have him go to Japan.
Prove. I want a name of a Russian that he colluded with.
Okay, if you want to break, we can. I'll give you.
Before you break. So there was a second part that was given in the Mueller report. That was the obstruction. So the speculation is that.
Yeah, the Mueller report lists 10. Hold on.
Mueller knew a year ago that there was no collusion. So now they focused on the obstruction part. So
well, the Mueller report lists, according to what I've read, 10 or 11 fairly clear instances of Trump obstructing.
So that's
why didn't they bring an indictment?
Because it's Department of Justice policy not to indict a city.
No. According to the Mueller report, they based their investigation regardless of that policy.
Fine. Let me look up. I'll give you fucking some oligarch names.
Okay. Let's see the Russian oligarch.
Break it.
We're going to find out the Russian oligarch that Trump colluded with, according to the smartest man in America. Thank you.
Hey, and that should fucking count for something. Hello, 104.3. So oligarchs. Tefvik, Arif, Felix Sater.
Wait, what did they do with Trump?
They helped him when he was down on his financial luck.
And so, when was this?
This starts in the 90s.
In the 90s. I see. So they knew in the 90s that he was going to be running for president 25 years later?
They could hope. I mean,
and what did they get in return in the 90s from Trump?
Nothing in the, I don't know, they got to launder money. Because these are just people who laundered, damn it, okay, it's not going to let me see any of these names because we've looked at too many Washington Post articles. Look, you've hit your Washington Post limit.
Okay, this is not an effective rebuttal, Rick.
Well, just that Trump's been in bed with these guys for 25 years.
So in the 90s, he met a Russian?
Dmitry Rybolev.
In the 90s, he met this Russian, and what did they do together?
It's all this real estate shit.
He sold real estate to a Russian in the 90s?
Starting in the 90s and then through.
When was the most recent time he sold real estate to a Russian?
I don't know, but anyway, you
need to know that, Rick, because I've actually
a bunch of names.
I've sold art to a Russian. I mean, selling a piece of real estate to a Russian is not colluding with Russia against America.
You know, if you're selling real estate and
Russians
tend to
when? Give me the most recent real estate sale.
Anyway, we're going to move on because, I don't know, starting in the 90s and for the next 10 years, 15 years.
No, you have no evidence
Now, you just said that we were, it's fucking, what's the next topic?
What would happen if Trump?
No, I don't want that title. It's too Trumpy. Give us something else.
Okay, is this making you insane?
Okay, so how the past 2.5 years of Trump have changed my behaviors. I mean, and it's not all, I mean, I may have gone crazy even without Trump as president, but like, so I've shit a lot. I've had just a hell load of diarrhea. I've gone to the gym more to the point it was fucking up my kidneys. And in fact, I'm having kidney surgery in 10 days. You work out too much, you create too much waste, muscle waste, and it's hard on your kidneys. You eat too much protein, hard on your kidneys.
How much protein a day do you eat?
Well, for a while it was like, I don't know, probably 70% of my calories because when I ate carbs, I would shit like crazy.
No, but how much, do you know how many grams you eat per day?
I don't know, probably pushing 100 grams a day, which is way too much.
Okay.
Unless you're a bodybuilder.
All right.
And even if you are, you shouldn't be I just turned 59. Nobody 59 should be a fucking bodybuilder because it's hard on your, you know, that's for guys who are 22 who are trying to get a girlfriend. I've become like, I spend way too much time tweeting and on eBay looking for little tchotchkes to buy the wife. My wife likes a particular kind of tchotchke. And I look for ones that are undervalued, and they're not very expensive. They can be as cheap as $5, and I look and I look and I wait until it's 8 seconds before the auction closes, and then I pounce. And you know, all this is shit that like I've kind of gravitated towards in the last 2 years.
Run for office though. Would you like
I
to talk
got
about
elected.
that?
Fucking, I
Let's
got
hear
elected
about it.
to
Let's hear
fucking
about it.
city, to the neighborhood council. Let me tell you about the neighborhood, and I went to my first meeting. I got my handbook as to what I need to know to be an effective council member. What happened was, I don't know how many years ago, LA is geographically huge. 400 square miles just for LA City, and then the county is even bigger. Compared to like 24 square miles for the island of Manhattan, which has on a work day as many people in 24 square miles as LA has across 400 square miles. And parts of the city, namely the San Fernando Valley, which is the big northern part of the city of LA, which kind of feels neglected often because it's over the mountains from the rest of LA. And then the a decade or two ago, the San Fernando Valley was threatening to secede and form its own city. And in order to address the concerns that there wasn't enough representation for various parts of the city, they created the neighborhood council system. And I should know how many different neighborhoods there are, but it's got to be it's got to be around 70 different little neighborhoods, which kind of reflects how LA was formed, which it wasn't formed as one big city. It was formed in the early 20th century as a bunch of different developments and separate neighborhoods that all kind of grew together. So anyway, I went to my first meeting. There's a lot of stuff to know. Now, do you want to look at this stuff at all, Lance? Because like
I don't, but I'd love you to be in the pose. Can you do any of this while you're in the pose?
Yeah. I just thought you might want to look at this stuff because you're in favor of limited government, and this whole thing's about just a whole lot of government.
Yeah, and probably no solutions. For example, Gavin Newsom has just presented a bill that it looks like it'll pass because the Democrats run the government, so that California will actually take care of all medical needs of illegal aliens between the ages of 18 and 26.
Yeah, how does that work?
Well, it means that if you're an illegal alien and you get sick, California will pay to fix you, no matter what you've got. How do you like that, Rick?
You know, I haven't seen the bill, but I know that, that under, I think all decent medical policies now offer free wellness exams. That is, if you want to go in once a year and get a thorough checkup to make sure you're okay, that's free. You don't pay anything for that. Because it turns out to be cheaper in the long run to keep people healthy than to treat them when they're sick. So I would wonder what the cost analysis of treating undocumented aliens is versus, as part of like a normal medical system versus treating people when you have to treat people when they come to the emergency room deathly ill. If somebody comes to the emergency room, they're going to get treatment. Now, some emergency rooms may say, yeah, we don't treat that here, we're going to send you down to county. But somewhere, no matter whether you can pay or not, you're going to get treated. And it's expensive. It's much more expensive to have people coming to emergency rooms than to deal with health issues in a less emergency manner. So I would like to see the analysis of how much this is going to cost the state versus, the get really sick and go to the emergency rooms.
Well, let's analyze this, Rick. If you were living south of the border and you got a notification that if you could make it to California and you were sick, they would just operate on you for free. How do you think that would affect your plans on whether you should become an illegal alien and try to sneak into California? Is there any analysis on that issue that might impress you?
Yeah, I'd like to, if there is analysis, I'd like to see it.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't really need analysis. I know that they are now telling people in Central America.
According to whom?
Well, Rick, if they read the newspaper, they will find out that California is getting ready to give free medical care for all illegal aliens.
No, wait, this is a bill that hasn't become law yet.
It's on the verge of it. There is no Republican that can vote against it. The Democrats have a supermajority and the governor.
Well, we should wait to argue about it until it's fucking law.
Well, I'll tell you what, Rick. What do you think about it right this second? Do you think that the United States government should be announcing in advance that if you're a sick illegal alien, we will give you free medical care if you can just make it over the border?
Maybe.
Okay. Enough. All right. Very good.
All right, what's the next topic?
All right, so Pelosi versus Trump.
Well, let's talk about the IQ thing.
Okay.
All right. So Sarah Sanders says that that Kim Jong-un communicated with Trump and that they both agree that Joe Biden has a low IQ. And didn't Trump say that Pelosi has a low IQ?
Turn away from me. Turn your
Okay, and for a long time, Trump has been saying that Maxine Waters has a low IQ. And now, I know a shitload about IQ. I know more about IQ than just about anybody. And I gotta say that in terms of how IQ is measured, I would guess that elected officials in general have low IQs, because IQ tests measure your ability across a number of, using a number of mini tests, call them subtests, that measure mathematical skill and analytical skill and vocabulary and verbal ability and working with blocks, spatial ability, pattern finding, a thing called digit span, how many numbers can you remember? And when I was working on a late night talk show, you have to come up with dozens and hundreds of ideas for bits to do. And one of the bits that I pitched repeatedly until I learned just to quit pitching it was, well, let's get frickin' famous people that take the SAT as adults. The test you take in high school to get into college, though now it seems that the ACT is more fashionable. And this thing was always rejected, maybe because it's boring, but probably, I mean, other people have made the same suggestion. Have fucking celebrities take the SAT and see how they do. No celebrity wants to do that because celebrities will do shitty and they'll look stupid. But also, freaking elected officials will look stupid. Because it measures skills that that you don't use in your daily life as an elected official. Like Trump was famously asked by Howard Stern to multiply 17 times 6 and could not do it. It's 102. Trump came up with 112. Nobody in the Trump family could do it. Ivanka was there, Don Jr. was there. Nobody got the right answer. But the deal is that 8 out of 10 elected officials, if you gave them 5 seconds to do that math in their head, they wouldn't get it either. An elected official, a lot of the senators and representatives are in their 60s and 70s and 80s, and they haven't done, like hard math or even medium math in 50 years. I would argue, if we had to guess IQs, I would guess that Trump started off with an IQ in the 120s, maybe even 130. But then, that would have been 50 years ago. Trump is about to turn 73. Trump is not curious. He's not a big reader. He needs everything either explained to him with one-page presentations, or just everything has to be short with him. He's not going to sit down and read stuff. So I would guess that, and he's got poor health habits. And so I guess that over time his IQ has dropped into the 110s someplace, if it could even be measured, because he wouldn't sit still to have it measured. So anyway, I guess what it boils down to is Trump. We shouldn't be listening to Sarah Sanders about IQ. We shouldn't be listening to Trump about IQ. We shouldn't be listening to Kim Jong-un about IQ. Lance.
Do you think that there's any reason to believe that Maxine Waters is more intelligent than Trump?
I think she's She's an old lady, but she seems to be in decent shape for an old lady. How old is Maxine Waters? She's got to be in her 80s, right?
I don't know.
She looks like she's in her 80s, but she seems pretty well spoken most of the time. Would she do well on the SAT? No. Is it even reasonable to think that you could get Maxine Waters and Donald Trump to compete at the SAT? No.
Continue, Lance, because you hasn't really spoken.
Well, I'm just saying that I keep watching Trump, and the only thing that he has not been able to accomplish, that he said he was going to accomplish, was he has not been able to get North Korea to give up nuclear weapons.
And he hasn't built the frickin' wall.
No, that's being built. Actually,
so how many miles of wall have been built?
I don't know the exact number, Rick, but it's being built.
You know, look up how many extra miles of wall Trump has built. I've seen two figures. One figure is slightly more than 1.5 miles, and the other figure is 20 miles. Now, under Bush 2 and Obama, more than 550 miles of border barriers were built.
Well, those border barriers were ineffective.
All right, so they are, now I will give you that some of those that area, they're being reinforced and made more effective. But in terms of extra mileage, Trump has been very ineffective at getting.
Rick, let me put it to you this way. When I elected Trump, I wanted him to fight to build a wall, to cut back illegal immigration, and among other things, I wanted him to stop North Korea's aggression. As far as his attempting to stop illegal immigration and build a wall, I give him 100%. I think he's done everything humanly possible to build a wall, to get more miles built, to get the funding, to fight the Democrats, and I think he's done everything he can to stop illegal immigration. He has, I'm talking now, he has attempted to get North Korea to be less aggressive, and he has not succeeded. So that's the only thing, and I'm still holding out hope that he will succeed with North Korea. So all in all, he's done everything he said he was going to do.
What about infrastructure? He keeps calling it infrastructure week, and every time it's infrastructure week, something else happens.
You know, I'll tell you.
You don't give a shit about infrastructure?
Rick, you can't do infrastructure unless you have the Democrat Congress cooperating with you. And since they're not cooperating, not a lot's going to get done.
Really, how many times did the Democratic Congress vote down an infrastructure bill?
I don't know the number, Rick, but I can tell you that...
Even once?
Rick.
Even once?
Rick. There are three parts of government. The legislature and the executive. The legislature and the executive are not cooperating on infrastructure right now, Rick. And so I can't blame him for that. It may delight you that he hasn't succeeded in changing the infrastructure, but I can't blame him. And if you weren't an unfair person, you would admit that he's done what he can with an uncooperative Congress.
Well, I'll admit that under Obama, it looks like we didn't do infrastructure either. So
okay, but beyond that, I did not elect Trump because I was worried about my infrastructure. I've gone over every week what I was worried about, and the things I was worried about: ISIS, Iran, Chinese stealing of our intellectual property, Chinese aggression, North Korea, illegal immigration. Those were the things I was worried about, and he's doing everything he can. And he's been very successful with the economy. So as far as his IQ goes, I don't care if it's 0. I'm getting what I want. In fact, I have to tell you something, Rick. Your IQ is probably twice Trump's, and I would not elect you to anything, and I would vote for him 1,000 times in a row. So maybe IQ...
That's illegal. You can only vote for him once.
If he ran 1,000 times, I'd vote each time for him because he's effective. And I think that your opinions are always wrong. Now, I'm very my congratulations to you for getting this seat in the government. I hope things go well. I don't mean to be personally insulting, but I have to say, I will vote for the person I agree with, not the person whose IQ is higher.
Okay. What's the next topic?
All right, so we got that out of the way. We have, one second, let me go to my notes. All right, scams.
Okay, so here's so this lady in Hawaii, this yoga instructor, gets lost for 17 days in the mountains. She falls down into a ravine, she cracks a femur or something, and anyway, she just got rescued after 17 days. And she looks like she's been out there for apparently she didn't take her cell phone with her, she left it in her car because she wanted to be free from technology and close to nature. So that was a fuck up. And she looks like she's been out there for 17 days. She still looks kind of hot because she's a yoga teacher, but she also looks like a yoga teacher who's been kind of baked for 17 days and from her hospital bed. But some people are accusing her and her husband of running a GoFundMe scheme to pay for her care, which is ridiculous because her face got turned into, an attractive catcher's mitt by exposure to the elements. Not a scam. But like you go into the swamp that is the internet, and you've got people accusing everybody of everything. So our director wanted us to talk about scams that even though I've got this IQ, I've been scammed. Like one time, we paid $600. We were trying to sell our condo in a bad condo market after the Northridge earthquake, and these guys, for $600, these guys would come make a video of your condo and post it on this little real estate channel where they had shit offered for, you'd get to see videos of people's properties, and we were supposed to get all sorts of interest based on that. And after a while, I thought, well, this is a fucking scam. We haven't had anybody come see our condo based on this stupid TV channel. And I called them up, and I was such a fucking victim that they talked me into spending another $200 for the extra deluxe video treatment that would. So, God damn it, it's always, we didn't fall for the grandma scam where somebody calls up and pretends to be your grandkid. This works on old people who's in jail and needs thousands of dollars to get out of Mexican prison or some crap. But we fell for a version of that. We didn't turn any money over, but we did end up calling the police station after we got a call from some bullshit police lieutenant saying that my wife's brother was in trouble. Because he was in trouble a lot. And it seemed to make sense. And one time I had to stop a check to the Police Protective League, which turns out to be a scam. And a lot of times it will take me like a half hour, an hour after I've been scammed to realize, wait, that was bullshit. And that's what happened. I wrote a check and had this guy with a police voice comes to my door saying da-da-da, and I write him a check, and then I'm like, wait, that's just bullshit. I Google. Anyway, Lance, you've been scammed?
I've been scammed every day of my life. I've been scammed by pretty much everyone I've ever met. My particular way that I get scammed is by women with money, with me giving them my money. And the way it works, the way the scam works, is the woman gets involved with me, and then suddenly she needs money. And whatever money I have, goes from my bank account into her bank account. Now, I have never broken up with a woman where I have a full bank account at the end of the relationship. It's where I actually have anything in the bank. In other words, when the woman leaves me, the bank account is empty. It just keeps happening. But now, the best scammer of all, there was one woman in particular. When I met her, I was actually really flush with money. When she left, not only was I broke, but years later, she used to call me up and she would ask for money. Now, she would have boyfriends. She would have boyfriends who were also giving her money, and I was aware of it. But somehow, she would get money from me even when she had boyfriends, even when we'd been broken up for years. And I even had her bank account number. So when I was putting money in my bank account, I could just, all those putting it in my bank account, I said, no, I'll just put it in hers. And I still, the reason I know it was a really good scam is because I still feel fine about it. Like if she wanted more money, I would give her more. I don't even think it was a scam. I think there was really never any choice.
Well, you're kind of programmed.
I don't know. But the funny thing was, we actually had a system where we both had the same bank, and I had a choice. I could always put the money. I had the free will to put the money in my bank account. I just never did. I'd put it in hers, even when I hadn't seen her for years.
Here's how you avoid that. Aim the camera at me. You avoid that by marrying somebody and then not divorcing that person. Because our civilization is set up that the married couple is an asset accumulating system or pair or whatever, where when Carol and I got married, we had zero. But after we got married, we started accumulating assets because you need furniture, you want to move from a rental to a condo to a house, you need to start saving for a kid if you're going to have a kid, and then you have to start saving for the kid's education. And it just makes sense that one of you is going to have a job, sometimes both of you, that you're compelled to become income generators and asset savers as part of a couple. And of course, it's a financial, economic disaster if you get divorced. You lose not just half of what you're worth, but half minus whatever you spend on lawyers and on moving and on setting up two households. So get married. Well, first pick somebody you can stand being married to, then marry. Then go to couples counseling so you can stay married, because it's cheaper to work on the marriage than to dissolve the marriage. And the deal is, there may be things about the person you're with that bug you, but the replacement person, if you divorce, devastate you and the rest of your family, yourself and the rest of your family, the person that you eventually find will end up being at least as annoying as the person you broke up with. What's the next topic?
Lance never got a chance to answer how the Trump administration has affected his life. I mean, are you happier now?
Well, wait, there can be an alternate. Nance is happy under Trump, but you hated Obama. Did living under Obama make you crazy? And did it make you do anything?
No, actually, what was interesting was this. Unlike my liberal Democrat colleagues in America, co-Americans, fellow Americans, I was able to deal with living under Obama. I had a sort of a disappointment. I was sad when I thought about it, but I concentrated on other things, and I just hoped that we could turn things around. I didn't get angry at the Democrats that I knew. I thought they were misguided, but I didn't take it that deep inside. The Democrats I know now, because of the brainwashing, firmly believe things that aren't real. See, in order for the Democrats to win, they have to have issues. And unfortunately for the Democrats, their issues aren't real things. They're imaginary. So it's very difficult to fight with them. I'll give you an example. Don't interrupt me. The main thing that the Democrats want to do is there are three things. One, Orange Man bad. Now that's not an issue. It's just like Orange Man bad. You know, it's just an emotional thing. I can't argue with it. The second thing is global warming. Don't interrupt me. They're very concerned about this thing that's going to happen in 70 years, if it happens at all. And the third thing they're worried about is people aren't equal enough. There's not enough equality. Now the Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, Schumer, these are all multimillionaires. Okay, even Bernie Sanders is a multimillionaire. But they're worried about equality. So basically, the Democrats are worried about three things you can't do anything about. So as a result, they walk around in this weird fantasy world that because Trump won the election, the world's going to end because of global warming. So they think they have to save the world, and it's very difficult for them. If you really think the world's going to end, it's a very difficult thing. It must drive you crazy. Now, when Obama was elected, and I'll repeat it because repetition is the mother of education, I was worried about ISIS destroying the Middle East. I was worrying about Iran getting a nuclear bomb. I was worried about a general shift towards socialism in my country. Trump has taken care of those three things. We are the greatest energy producer in the world right now, greater than Saudi Arabia, greater than Russia, because of the reforms of Trump. And that energy leadership has given us an advantage over our enemies in the Middle East and our enemies in Russia. So along with all the other wonderful things Trump has done, I have physical, real things that I'm looking for. So because my needs are real problems not being solved, real problems being solved, I'm able to deal with it sanely. But if you think that the world's going to end because of global warming, Orange Man bad, and nobody's equal, then you're going to be kind of crazy.
Yeah, but, all right, so,
One last
hold on, wait a second.
One last thing before you forget. Before I forget. Angelina Jolie's dad, what's his name?
John Voight.
He put out a
No,
he was saying
you were
that-
going to talk
that
about that.
Trump-
We're not going to talk now.
But
We're
no,
going
it has that Trump is the best president since Abraham Lincoln. Would you concur with that?
I'm going to tell you a funny thing about that. I've said this.
Repeat what I said.
Okay, so John Voight, an actor, put out a tweet that Trump's the best president since Abraham Lincoln. He is definitely the best president in my lifetime. It has actually convinced me that a man of goodwill is actually better than a politician. That the senators and the congressmen, these people we've been electing, are compromised by the process. They're such impotent people that all they can do is make things worse or not change them at all. Trump has gone into the presidency with the idea that he's going to improve things every way he can for his country, and that's what I'm seeing. He fought for our country in every trade deal with every country, Mexico, Canada, Europe,
all right, now
China.
we've got a bunch of tariffs.
But, and by the way,
Trump
the
apparently-
tariffs against China are brilliant, because that's the only thing they understand is getting kicked in the nuts. If we have to go down fighting a tariff war with China, I will suffer. I will pay an extra $100 for cheap Chinese goods. Whatever I have to do, we have got to crush China, and Trump understands this. Now, as far as Lincoln, I have a fact about Lincoln that is little remarked. Lincoln fought a war that cost the deaths of 350,000 Union troops. I think if Lincoln was alive today and lost a correspondingly proportionate number of Americans, he would be the most hated man in America, because I don't think Americans would ever fight a war where we lost that many people. That means that every single person in the North and the South's numbers were also incredibly high.
He was pretty hated when he was president by a huge segment of the country.
By the South. But he trounced McClellan in the election of 1864. So my point is that I don't know that he would be a loved president. I actually wonder, can a president really be considered good when he was presided over a war where 750,000 Americans died on both sides? So I'm not saying Lincoln was a bad president, but I'm saying it's very difficult to compare a modern leader with a leader from that period, because people were more willing to suffer for their country. All right, go ahead.
I agree with quite a bit of that, though. All right, so we're allowed to raise a shitload of points. Now, Lance always tells our director, don't help him too much, but really, fucking don't help him too much. God damn it. Now, as far as the Iran nuclear weapon deal, the argument between the two sides is, were we better off under the treaty versus are we better off putting pressure on them without the treaty? And I don't want to go into that, but I just can't let it sit there like as if the hands down we're better giving up the treaty. So, but anyway, I want to go on to something else, which is I read a lot of science fiction, and this guy is a good writer, Kim Stanley Robinson. He writes a lot about colonization of the moon and Mars in the near future, which raises the issue that I care most about, which is
robot girlfriends.
Well, kind of the U.S. maintaining its technological and educational superiority to our main competitors, which, well, right now our main competitor into the future is going to be China, and China has huge advantages in some areas. Human capital, 1.4, 1.5 billion people compared, more than 4 times as many Chinese as Americans. A huge push towards urbanization and building these huge tech cities, where China wants to have something like 200 tech cities with populations over 1 million by 2025 or 2030. And this book is set in 2047 and talks about the colonization of the moon. And it's called Red Moon. The red equals China, where China has the biggest foothold on the fucking moon. And, I don't know how important it will be to colonize the moon and Mars. It'll be helpful in some ways, where some things will be cheaper, some forms of manufacturing, and will be cheaper to do where the temperature's only a few degrees above absolute zero. Like if you're doing a bunch of computation, it might be helpful to do it in orbit where the temperature's really low, or on the moon where the temperature's really low. But, you know, that, and national pride enters into it. But the deal is that whatever form future tech is going to take, which will largely hinge on computation, we want to continue to be at the forefront of it. And China is going to be hard to fight now and will be harder to fight later. And the longer we have a political system that, at least in part, is based on appealing to the demographic of dumb shits, we're going to be in a tough position. We elect a bunch of dumb shits. Some forms of political media are directed at the dumb demographic, at the 62 million American adults who are dumber than the average dumb person. That is, there are 250 million American adults. Half of them are dumber than average. And half of them are dumber than the average dumb person. And 62 million people is a lot of dumb shits, and they're easier to move around and motivate politically than other segments of the population. And I would like to see us get back on closer to the footing where we were panicking after Sputnik went up in 57 or 58, and we were worried that Russia was going to eat our technological lunch.
Okay, may I respond?
Yes.
Obama did virtually nothing to struggle with China. Virtually nothing. Not only did he do virtually nothing, but the man most responsible for the economic revolution in China is Bill Clinton. And it turns out that Chinese money, the Chinese actually contributed to the Clinton campaign, the Bill Clinton campaign. And it turns out that American technology was stolen during the Clinton administration to help China. So I believe that China was, because of Clinton, admitted into the World Trade Organization. China's deals with us that were negotiated during the Clinton administration led to their overtaking us or their competition with us economically. It was the Clinton administration and the Obama administration that allowed so
what happened
many
in the 8 years of Bush 2?
Bush 2?
George W. Bush.
Well, by that time, the Chinese had already been allowed to do all these things. They were just carrying out what they were allowed to do by Clinton. Bush didn't get
so Bush gets a pass, but the
because
Democrats...
because before Bush, before Clinton, China was a third world country in every respect. It was a disaster economically. It was the Clinton administration that allowed China to get the kind of deals and that enabled it to be our competitor. Their technology was so poor they couldn't even build their own airplanes. So this all happened because of Clinton, and it's just
no, it didn't. That's ridiculous. It didn't all happen because of
and
Clinton.
it's just a coincidence that the Chinese contributed money to the Clinton campaign, the Bill Clinton campaign.
Just Clinton, or I bet you they contributed to Bush.
There's no evidence for that. So what you're upset about is something that Trump is
Trump
the first
has
president,
been more aggressive to China.
Yeah, in fact, not only has he been more aggressive, he's the one that's trying to stop China. Obama and Clinton didn't do anything against China; they helped him.
But Bush, the guy in between Clinton and Obama, you don't care about what happened to him.
No, because the deals were already made under Clinton.
So go after the Democrats, ignore the Republicans.
Well, it was the Clinton administration that began the Chinese economic revolution.
And American business has nothing to do with it, where they found that China is this cheap manufacturer.
Well, we used to have laws that prevented American business from dealing with China. Those were all given up.
All right, so maybe there are some legit points in there. But the major point is, we got 2 minutes. Okay.
No, I'm done. I'm done. It's past my bedtime, guys.
Space Force.
Well, I don't want to talk about fucking.
Because you say that we should go to the moon. So doesn't.
No, I'm just saying whether or not colonizing the moon is where our technology pushes us. I'm saying in general that we need an emphasis on our own technology, and we need a national culture that is.
Isn't that what Trump is doing with Space Force?
No, fucking,
No.
not Space Force doesn't. Space. It's just some weird half-formed idea that now it needs to be looked at what the current threats from space are. You know, shooting down satellites, or putting up satellites that fuck with other satellites, or if you want to protect against asteroids. But as far as fighting a war in space, that's you can analyze what form. No, fucking Space Force is this half-assed idea, but the deal is that we need to be a country that focuses on education. We've got a moron, a billionaire moron, Betsy DeVos, in charge of the Department of Education. And a lot of Republicans don't even want a Department of Education. But we need to have an educated population. We need to have a pro-science population. And yeah, we need to maintain a defensive stance towards China, but it's inevitable that we will be working with China in the future. We're gonna have to be frenemies with them, because they're gonna. But I just object to the dumb shitification of America. You know, we have the best TV in history right now. It's sophisticated. There are so many great shows that there are too many to watch that explore humanity in all its dimensions. And movies are more complicated. TV is more complicated. You need to be smart and sophisticated to understand TV now, which is a crazy thing to think growing up in the 60s and 70s when TV was really stupid for the most part. But TV and movies they just explore kind of the soft sciences, the psychology of people, the humanity of humanity. We need the same push to be scientifically literate that we are about human nature now. And some of that is happening where, you know, every kid learns how to code. Coding is, you know, an essential skill for the future. You know, I learned to code a little bit, but I stayed away from it because I wanted to be cool in junior high, and I eventually wanted to kiss a girl. And I thought computers were for nerds, and I was already nerdy enough.
Do you think Al Gore invented the internet?
See, you want to talk about problems with the media. Al Gore was painted. The media decided Al Gore was kind of a dull, nerdy asshole, and they spread this lie that said that Al Gore claimed to have invented the internet. What Al Gore, I think, claimed to have done was work on the legislation that supported the internet legally. Obviously, Al Gore didn't fucking invent the internet. The media also made fun of Al Gore for saying that he was the inspiration for the novel and movie Love Story. And it turns out, yeah, that was true, at least in part, that the author, was it Eric Sieg? Whatever, anyway, the guy who wrote Love Story, said he based that character on like 3 or 4 Harvard classmates, one of whom was fucking Al Gore. Now, maybe Al Gore should have, everybody needs a fucking minder to prevent them from saying, you know, shit that can be used against them during campaigns. But anyway, all right, are we done here?
We're done.
Okay.
Except, wait, I just have one last thing to say. Isn't it sad that Al Gore was married to Tipper Gore and then he was found to be sexually harassing maids in hotel rooms and then they got a divorce? I mean, that's just so sad to me.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this.
Yeah, so I guess it wasn't really a love story, or it was a love story, but he grew out of it.
Yeah, that sounds like an unrebutted little bit of
well, why do you think they got a divorce, Rick? I literally, since we're talking about Al Gore's love life, it's just, I always thought it was really sad because they seemed like a nice couple.
I don't know, fucking Tipper Gore's the one who wanted to put warning labels on record albums back when they had records.
Yeah, and she should have put a warning label on Al Gore.
I've never heard about Al Gore fucking Me Tooism.
Look it up. That's
all right,
why
break for a
the
second.
divorce.
We'll come back for one little more segment and see if Al Gore was a fucking harasser.
No, I don't care if he was a harasser. I just feel sorry for him that's how his marriage ended. I'm putting it together with the love story issue.
Have you ever been married, Lance?
No. No one would have.
All right, so it looks like, yes, that Al Gore was a little bit harassing.
Yeah, that's all I get. He's just a big fat hypocrite, eh, Rick?
I don't know. I don't fucking know. Now, like,
All right, I'm going to bed now. Thank you. Good night. Contribute to our show.
Jesus Christ. All right, good night.
Last party, you listening?
I don't know. Send us money if our system of sending us money even frickin' works.